Our story begins in a rather sweet chapter of our lives. Lucas and I have been dating for over 4 years. With marriage plans postponed until we both finish college, we live one day at a time, supporting each other through adversities and celebrations. Life, however, has a peculiar way of testing our strength. In the first year of our relationship, Lucas and his younger sister faced the devastating loss of their parents. Without delving into the painful details, this tragedy brought us together in ways we never expected. Lucas, then 28, took on not only the role of brother but also guardian and mentor to his 16-year-old sister. A wonderful child, but like any young person her age, facing a tough battle to adjust to the new reality. Over the years, our relationship with her strengthened. We became an improvised family, sharing responsibilities, dreams, and of course, the typical financial difficulties of students trying to stretch every penny. Upon turning 16, her big dream was to get her driver's license. Lucas and I moved heaven and earth to make it happen, and when she finally got her driver's license, the joy was immense. However, the reality of our financial situation did not allow for the purchase of a car. So, we began secretly saving, dreaming of gifting her with her own vehicle on her birthday. After months of saving, we accumulated a small amount. We knew it wouldn't be a luxurious car, but it would certainly be something special for her. Lucas suggested we look on Facebook Marketplace, a familiar territory for bargains and possible hidden treasures. Among disposable vehicles and a few worth considering, our search seemed doomed to fail until Howard reached out. He offered a 2013 Chevy Cruze at a price that seemed like a miracle. Howard told a convincing story about the car's origin, belonging to his stepmother who had moved and needed to get rid of her belongings. We arranged to meet to see the car, and if everything was as promised, we would close the deal that same night. Excitement consumed us, but upon arriving at the agreed location, the reality that awaited us was different. The house was shrouded in darkness, with an aura of abandonment that sent shivers down the spine. Against my intuition, Lucas, an incurable optimist, decided to investigate. I urged him to be cautious while fear kept me glued to the car. When Lucas disappeared through the door, a faint light indicated some presence in the house. Restlessness took over me, leading me to take control of the car, ready to flee at the slightest sign of danger. And it didn't take long. Lucas's screams and the sound of something breaking triggered a primal response in me. When he emerged from the darkness, pursued by 4 threatening figures, I knew we had fallen into a well-orchestrated trap. The return to civilization was marked by silence and shock. Lucas, with difficulty, shared the terrifying details of the encounter. The ambush was immediate, a brutal reception that almost became our last memory together. In the days that followed, we reported the incident, although little could be done without concrete evidence. Howard's profile disappeared, as did our dream of a gift for Lucas's sister. Reflecting on how close we came to a tragic outcome still haunts us today. This experience taught us the harsh lesson of caution, especially in the impersonal vastness of the internet, where predators lurk behind every tempting offer. Our relief at having escaped unharmed is mixed with constant concern for those who may not be so lucky. We share our story in the hope of alerting others, so that no one else has to face the terror we experienced on that dark night, in the abandoned house, by the roadside. The story I'm about to tell happened just a few days ago, so it's still fresh in my mind. Though more strange and unsettling than scary, as I reflect on it, I can't help but think it could have turned into a real nightmare. Before diving into the details, I think it's important to provide some context about my life. I work as a freelance camera operator, recording content for local artists, students, and even random people. I've done everything from documentaries and weddings to a short film about aliens for a peculiar client. I'm not rich, but I managed to pay the bills doing what I love. It all started with a car accident about a week before the day I urgently needed a camera. A lady fell asleep at the wheel, crossed into oncoming traffic, and collided head-on with me. The fear of seeing a car coming directly at me was one of the worst experiences of my life. Luckily, both the lady and I emerged unscathed, thank God. Unfortunately, my camera, which was on the passenger seat, wasn't as fortunate and was destroyed upon impact. Desperate for a camera for a job on Saturday, I began messaging everyone I knew in the hope of borrowing one, to no avail. Someone then suggested I look on Facebook Marketplace. The idea seemed brilliant to me, and soon I was browsing through ads in search of the perfect camera. That's when I found Devon's ad, offering a camera better than mine for only $100, with a microphone included. The offer was irresistible, and after exchanging a few messages, we arranged for me to pick up the equipment. Devon lived in a luxury building in the city center, which reassured me about the safety of the meeting, scheduled for early afternoon. Upon arriving, I took the elevator to the 12th floor, where he lived. On my way to his apartment, I paused for a moment to admire the view from the window at the end of the hallway. When I knocked on the door, Devon opened it almost instantly, as if he had been eagerly awaiting my arrival. Devon was a handsome guy, dressed elegantly, with a surprisingly bright smile. We chatted a bit about cameras and my work, and he mentioned that he had done some acting and primarily made a living as a model. I was genuinely interested in the conversation until he invited me to see his new set of cameras while he prepared the one he had promised to sell me. Without noticing any warning signs up to that point, I followed him into an empty room, except for a camera and tripod. It was then that, with an eerily calm voice, he suggested that I could be a great model. Those words, the tone of his voice, and the door closing behind me set off all the alarm bells. Without responding, I spun on my heels, opened the door, and ran out of the apartment, leaving behind the camera he intended to sell me. Although nothing happened, that moment of tension made me question Devon's intentions. In the following days, I couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if I hadn't left that room. Was he just a weird guy, or could something more sinister have been at play? Despite having no reason to involve the police, the concern that someone else might fall into the same trap remained with me. The next day, I managed to find another camera from a different seller, this time accompanied by a friend for precaution. If by chance I cross paths with Devon again, my plan is to run as fast as possible in the opposite direction. There was a time in my life when all I wanted was to leave home. My friends had all followed their paths, going to college or moving to new places. I was still stuck at my parents' house, daydreaming about the day I would have my own place. That's when I discovered Facebook Marketplace, a true hidden gem on the internet, full of rental listings that seemed perfect for me. One day, while scrolling through my phone screen, I came across a listing that seemed like it had come out of a dream, a 2-story house with 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a garage, and a basement, all for a price that almost seemed too good to be true. The photos showed an impeccable interior, with spacious rooms and tasteful decoration. Without a second thought, I sent a message to the seller and we arranged to meet that same night, after my shift. Driving there, I started noticing some strange things. First, there were no photos of the outside of the house in the listing. Then, upon arrival, I saw that the facade wasn't quite what I expected. The paint was peeling, the garden looked abandoned for years, and the neighborhood had a somewhat suspicious vibe. But at that moment, none of that mattered. I was one step closer to having my own space. The man who greeted me had an air of not caring much about appearances. Disheveled hair, wrinkled clothes, and a look that didn't inspire much confidence. Next to him, a thin woman, with sad eyes and an expression of someone who had seen better days. They didn't bother to show me the house, just stood in the living room, as if waiting for my reaction. As I explored a bit, I saw that reality was very different from the photos. The place was falling apart, with cracked walls and a musty smell that permeated the air. That's when I decided that house was definitely not for me. When I said I wasn't interested, the mood changed. The man, once apathetic, now seemed desperate. He insisted that I take a look at the basement, as if that would change my decision. The woman, with a theatrical gesture, opened the basement door and pointed to the darkness below. I was about to refuse, but something in me didn't want to be rude. I stood there, hesitating, until I felt the woman's hand on my shoulder, gently pushing me towards the stairs. That was enough to awaken my survival instincts. I turned to leave, but the man blocked my path, his expression now threatening. He said something about paying in cash, and for a second, I thought I wouldn't be able to get out of there. With my heart in my mouth, I pretended I didn't have any money and prepared for the worst. Luckily, I managed to dodge him and ran to the door. It was locked. My heart raced, but I managed to unlock it and ran to my car, without looking back. I drove straight to the nearest police station, where I told them everything that had happened. The police went there, but the couple had disappeared. They were probably squatters who fled as soon as they sensed trouble. My journey to a new life began shortly after graduation when I decided to venture into an unknown city, carrying the hope of new opportunities and challenges. The adaptation wasn't easy. Far from friends and familiarities, I found refuge in a job that, although far from my field of study, promised to be a starting point, unloading trucks at a local market. This job, despite its simplicity and physical wear, offered fair compensation and the chance to appreciate, in the brief moments of rest, the serene landscape of a lake that bordered the place. This sight became a consolation in my daily routines. Living in a modest studio, I increasingly felt the need to turn that space into a home. Among the various things I needed, one stood out for its absence: a stand for my 60-inch TV, which rested awkwardly on the floor, a constant reminder of my life still to be organized. That's when a colleague suggested Facebook Marketplace, a suggestion that I initially met with skepticism due to the alarming stories circulating about online sales sites. However, lured by the almost unbelievable bargain stories he shared, I decided to explore what the marketplace had to offer. My search soon led me to a listing that seemed to answer all my prayers: a perfect TV stand, offered for a ridiculously low price. The seller's urgent need to get rid of the item only added to the appeal of the deal. Ignoring the warning signs that such an offer might raise, I dove headfirst into the negotiation. Coordinating our meetings turned out to be a challenge, given our schedule incompatibilities. Her proposal to meet at dawn in the parking lot near my workplace, although strange, was accepted by me, driven by the desire to finalize the transaction. The morning of the meeting dawned shrouded in a dense fog, which transformed the lake environment from soothing to mysterious, even unsettling. I received a message from her upon arrival, indicating her presence in a van parked in the far corner of the parking lot. The visibility reduced by the fog prevented me from noticing the absence of movement inside the vehicle until my headlights directly illuminated it. Despite her persistent messages for me to approach, something inside me screamed that the situation wasn't right. My hesitation only increased when, instead of approaching defenseless, I chose to keep a safe distance, illuminating the van with the headlights of my car. The absence of any sign of life inside made me decide, instinctively, to step back. It was then that, through the rearview mirror, I saw two shadowy figures emerging from behind a tree near the van, armed with indistinct objects in their hands. Seeking refuge and a chance to process what had happened, I drove to a nearby gas station. There, while trying to calm my nerves with a coffee, the weight of the situation began to settle in. The enigmatic message I received from her after my departure only served to intensify my discomfort. My efforts to alert the authorities were in vain, as both the listing and her profile disappeared without a trace. It was a day like any other, except that it wasn't. My name is Jake Thompson, and this is the story of how the end of nearly a decade turned into an unexpected and somewhat dangerous adventure. Ending a relationship is never easy, especially when it's with someone you've shared almost 10 years of your life with. The decision to end it came late, long after we realized that the love that once bound us had faded. She, a sensitive soul, recoiled at every mention of separation, plunging into a deep and painful silence. The truth is that prolonging our relationship only made things worse, but at the time, I couldn't see that clearly. I choose to remain anonymous in this account, protecting not only myself but also her and her family, who have faced enough challenges without the need for more stress. When I finally gathered the courage to end it, it was tumultuous, marked by weeks of arguments, tears, and even threats. Despite the chaos, the separation was finalized, and she moved to her aunt's house, about an hour away, while I remained in our former residence. In the division, she got most of the furniture, which didn't bother me. I could buy new ones. However, I found myself in a peculiar situation, watching TV on a garden chair due to the lack of a sofa. Determined to find a temporary solution, I scoured the marketplace and found a curious find, a two-seater yellow sofa, incredibly ugly, but irresistible to me due to my inexplicable affection for that color. The seller asked only $40 for it, a bargain for a piece of furniture that seemed never to have been used. I arranged to pick up the sofa and headed to the provided address, a modest house in a semi-isolated area. When I knocked on the door, I was greeted by an elderly woman, clearly startled, who denied knowing anything about the sofa before slamming the door in my face. Confused, I checked the message again. The address was correct. After an enlightening exchange of messages, I found out that the seller lived in the back, in a converted garage. As I approached the garage, I was surprised by a surreal scene. My ex-girlfriend, the least expected person, emerged from an adjacent room and attacked me in a fit of anger and desperation. The situation quickly escalated from physical confrontation to a moment of pure terror when she pulled out a box cutter and wounded me in the shoulder. The shock of betrayal and the sharp pain were replaced by frenetic adrenaline, allowing me to escape and call the police. Seeing her being arrested was one of the most traumatic moments of my life, a mix of relief and desolation at witnessing the downfall of someone I once deeply loved. The revelation that it had all been a plan orchestrated by her, luring me with the advertisement of a yellow sofa, only added perplexity to my already tumultuous range of emotions. She had moved in with her aunt, yes, but her plan was to ensnare me in a well-orchestrated trap, using my peculiar taste as bait. Despite the pain and betrayal, I chose not to press criminal charges, opting instead to contribute to her treatment. Sometimes, those closest to us hurt us the most deeply. However, amidst the storm of emotions and unexpected events, I hold on to hope that she finds the help she needs to heal and start anew. Hey everyone! I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you liked it, how about leaving a like and subscribing to the channel? That way, you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. So, before saying goodbye, I just wanted to say that every comment, every share, makes all the difference. It's amazing to have you all in this community that grows more each day. Until next time, stay safe out there, and remember, it will always be a pleasure to be here with you.